Hello guys, let's get right into it. So today we're going to integrate a React application with a Django backend. So there are two main ways of doing it. There are others. These are the ones I will talk about today. First is to cram the React app into Django. The second is to have separate infrastructures for both the React application and the Django backend. So when you cram it into Django, it is basically having a Django backend and adding the React application details into the Django backend. The HTML is served by the Django views, and the JavaScript and CSS is bundled by Django and served as static files. So this is mainly the default package of how other developers normally do it. Second one is having separate infrastructures, whereby you have two separate code bases for the front-end and backend. So the backend is the Django REST API that is built, tested, and deployed independently of the frontend. The frontend gets data from the backend early through the REST API calls, and since they're on different servers, they have different domain names. There are several pros and cons for each. Let's start with the cramming into React into Django. So the first pro is that it has simple infrastructure after being deployed. Second one is that it has data integration, whereby you can pass context data from the backend to the frontend via templates. The cons is that it takes longer build and run process in case of any changes, whereby if you make a small change, for example, in the backend, you'll need to build the frontend once more, which will take more time compared to having them separately. Secondly, have the Django tech stack where the backend developers will need to know some React and the front-end developers will need to know some of Django for the system to work. And then its integration is not a piece of cake. So having separate infrastructures, those has its pros and cons. The first one is that it has independent deployment. There is no dilly-dallying waiting on either end. Secondly, there is division of responsibilities, whereby the backend developers stick to the backend and the front-end developers stick to the front-end. If the backend goes down, the front-end is still in action. Therefore, even though users may experience the errors, the site will not appear as broken. And then there is more productivity in both development teams since they each have power to deploy at their own time, irrespective of what the other side is doing. The cons are that it has more infrastructure, leading to more work and more complexity. It also has extra configurations to the Django settings that allow the frontend to talk to the backend properly. So this will include some cross-domain settings, which may be a pain sometimes, such as the cross-origin resource sharing. They include the cause origin allow all, cause allow credentials, cause origin rejects whitelist, CSRF cookie domain, CSRF trusted origins, sessions cookie domain, among others. So with that, I believe we can now get into the code base. So first, for those who do not have Django, you can run pip install Django. The next thing we'll have to do is to create a new project. So this is done with Django. I'll call it React Django. Once it has been created, two folders will be created, the main folder and a subfolder that contains the Python files such as the settings.py, URLs, etc. Once you have this, let us migrate everything. Python manage.py migrate. Oh, sorry. Let's first move into the React Django folder that you have created. And then migrate. Once that has been done, we can run the server to make sure that everything is working correctly. Yes, and as you can see, the install worked successfully. Since you've confirmed that this is working, we can quit it, and then we can create a front-end Django app, which is going to store all the Python front-end files, and then we're going to create a front-end React folder in that the Python setup front-end. Once it has been created, it's going to come in the React Django main folder. It's going to have all those details that we have made. Once I've done that, we're going to add the front-end application in the installed apps in the settings.py. So you can get the name, front-end config, settings. Let's now move into the front-end folder and create the React folder in there. I'm going to use Vite. So we run npm create Vite latest. I'll also call it front-end. But if it's just going to cause some confusion to you, you can name it however you want. I will choose React JavaScript. Yeah, the front-end React folder has been created in here. You can see all the packages. So I'm just going to follow these processes I highlighted there. The front-end. Initially, I used Create React App, but it's becoming outdated. And even though I still use it sometimes, Vite is the best at the moment due to its speed, and it carries less megabytes compared to React App. React App comes with around 230 MBs when you install it, while Vite has only 34 MBs if I'm not wrong. And with that, it's going to create a better user experience since it's going to lag less compared to the previous Create React App. Once it has been created, we can go and check the backend rights integration for Vite. Once it has been uploaded, you can go and check the backend integration for Vite and follow the steps. The first one that I'd like to do is to create a new HTML file that is going to be linked to the backend. So I can create a new folder with HTML. With HTML, I can create a new file and just call it new.html. Exclamation mark. Yes. First thing you have to do is create a div. In the div, we have the ID of fruits. Without this, nothing is going to be displayed, because this is what is in the index HTML, and we're trying to pass everything into this new HTML. So the first thing I know is that I take is this script and I put it here. And then there's something else that can cause an error, because you can see that there's no main.js in our Vite folder. It's main.jsx and it's in the source folder. So you're going to add here the src/main.jsx to avoid any errors. And then you change this localhost to the localhost that you know which is 173. Actually, you can check the Vite and PM run now. So you can see it's running. For the first thing, after you've taken that, come here and take these scripts. Because we're using React, this one is only when using React, and since we have to add it to put it above. I don't know why, but if it comes below this main JSX, it brings up an error. I have not yet figured out why, but you could experiment and see if it's going to be any difference. Once again, come here, network with those 3,000 is G173. After that, let's import this to our app.js x and copy this to our Vite config. It's actually all there. So this build will help generate some content in the manifest.json, as we shall see. This part is not necessary. It's just going to cause the errors. And I believe at the moment that's it. Once that is done, let's go and create a view in our front-end app. So we'll define front argument return new.html. After that, we create a new URLs.py in the front-end app. Oh, move it to the wrong front-end. Yeah. It's okay. So import front. Front is the view that we created in the views.py. There. So we give this an app name, which you shall see how it's going to be used later. Content. And then URL patterns. Once you've created the URL patterns, we go to the urls.py in the main projects folder. And then URLs you can add include path there. Front end .urls. So this will go to these URLs over here are the ones that are going to be used once you call the front end slash something. So after the localhost 8000 slash front end slash any URL that you have formed here, the path that you formed here. So I prefer using this because it brings some sort of abstraction in the different apps that you create, because it's no must for you to have just one app. You could have several, and how will you differentiate the URLs that you create in one app from the other? So this creates a more straightforward approach that even other developers can see where these URLs come from usually. For example, if now you create your REST APIs, you're going to create a backend folder, and the backend folder could have a path backend. We'll just do something like backend slash and then include backend.url, something of the sort. So creates that layer of abstraction that I prefer compared to having all the URLs in this main URL file. Once you've done that, there are other settings that you're supposed to do so that this can work. So the first thing is that you'll have to come to the settings.py and add this templates directory in here. So I will import OS. Importing OS, come here in the directory os.path. Let's join base directory. After the base directory, we're looking for this file in here. So in order for us to get there, we have to go to frontend and then frontend and then HTML. So frontend, HTML. So this is going to take us here into this directory that contains the new.html. After we have done that, we need to add the static files directories under the static URL. So these static files directories are going to be connected to the public and our build file folder in the front end. The build folder has a different name when you use Vite. It's called list, as you'll see in a few minutes to come. So let's create static files layers. Okay. So the same process. Just come and copy paste this path. So the first one here will be public because that is what you have. And the next one will add it once you have built the front end for product development. Yeah. So with that, we can link everything in order. Let's look at the Vite config. The Vite config, we have some roll-up options that you have to create such that when the build happens, they're going to help in creating the files for the JavaScript and CSS. So with that, we're going to write some code here in under the roll-up options as follows. File, arrow function, so these are going to be in the assets file in the new build folder that we'll create. So css / index.mean.css. Then we'll have an entry file name. Yes, name. Yeah. So they're going to create the files that are going to be in the manifest.json. So with that, let's end the server, do our npm run build. Yes, so you can see here this folder, that's the new build folder. I prefer build, but it's okay. This when you come to a manifest.json, you can see the index.css file, that's the source, the index.html, everything, the assets, they're all there. So if we now npm run dev, Oh, there's something we forgot. Forgot to add it to the settings. The static file. And then we change this to list. And the comma. Now we have to run the Python, the React. Yes, so let's follow this link. You can see admin and front end and the patterns. Let's go to front end. It works, but the logos. So now for the logos, we have to change something. Everything else works. See the counts. So for the logos, and come to the app to CSX. First of all, let's move this logo from this asset into public. Then you come here and create a new constant. Logo, we go to static, from the static files, which is in the public React.svg. Then we can have the same for the Vite logo. Vite.svg. So you can delete both of these. Let's see if it works. Yes. So everything is in order. If you want to get this to a production level, there's several changes you have to make. So we've already done npm run build, and you have the this and the assets and everything. So now we have to go to the settings by, and then debug has to be false. You can see here, do not run with debug turned on in production. So since this is where I assume that you want to deploy it for production purposes, check as false. Once it's put as false, allowed host needs to have something. So you can put a statue. So if you run this again, it most definitely will not work for certain reasons. You have not configured it to run under production. So if you follow that link or just come and restart it, it's working. Yeah. It's working insurance, but it work. To make it more stable, you create an internal IPS. Localhost arrays 127.0.0. Yeah, still shocking me. That's okay. And it is something I have to install called white noise. It helps solve the static files when it's under production. pip install. Oh, I have it already installed. If you didn't install the white noise, then you come to the middleware under the first. I don't know if there's on anything. I just prefer doing it, putting it there. So white noise dot middleware dot white noise. With that, we can now go to our new.html, and we want to configure it such that if debug is on, it runs the script, but if it's not on, bug is false, it will run the index.html from these assets, the one that has been built for production. So we're going to use an if HTML. If debug, we could run that and have something like a H1 is in debug. If new debug else, then say can have a H1 say hey, no. And hot debug. Let's see how managed by run server npm run build. Oh, don't forget to add the end if the end if is not there. That's an error. Yes, now I can do npm run it. So let's and this. Now it's debug. Do you see we have successfully done something here, such that we have built it in such a way that this new HTML, this template is what controls the debug and whether the debug is true or false. So there's some scripts that are being run if it's true and others that will be run when false. These ones that will be run when it's false are the ones that will be there in the production. Those are the ones in this index.html here in the assets and the lists or in the lists. So what will you do? Let's just copy these two lines here, the script and link, and put them under the new HTML under the not debug. We have some quite work to do, some and brackets, $sign, and $sign. Poof, that's also the brackets, and the $sign in there. Static, because it's from the static pane, and quotations on top of the assets /index1bc4907.js. Do the same to this one too. So the first one is the calibra bracelet black. The $signs, static, and that. Once you have done that, come back to Python and it's run build Python manage.py collect static. Yes. Shit. Oh, we need the static root. Ooh, sorry for that. Sorry. Static root settings and under these static files directories you need our static. At least these are coming up so that if they come up on your side, you will most definitely know what to do with them. Come here and add the base directory /static. So think that it should work now. Nice. Migrate. And now I can run this up. Come here and reload. So error. It's not getting that. After some deliberations, I found out where the error is. I had not added the load static here, so percentage Loads static. Yes, so you can see the not debug here. It has worked. So I think we can remove this here because I've already seen it's not a hoax. It's a real deal. Then we could add the and Django just for the aesthetics. Vite plus React plus Django. Yeah. Oh, we have to npm run build that. So that's and Django. npm run dev. Well, let's hope that and Django is shown again for the aesthetics. And well, after much deliberations with my found the error that every change in your scripts and static files, you have to run Python manage.py connect static so that it gets all the changed static files, and then Python manage.py migrates. And after that, you can run the solve just as follows. Let me just collect static. So I changed it to new.js because it had a very long weird name here. Oh god. See, now I did another run build and you can see the index has changed. So just come here and change the name to index v17. Yeah, that's v17. I think that's okay. We come here, collect static. Yes. Migrate. Where we can run the server. And we can also so we come here, remove the nodes debug. Yes, so the other error here was that this one was 7s instead of JS. These small errors can make you lose your mind. Yeah. Index b174 fe7f.js, which matches what is there. Let us now run this. Beautiful, beautiful. So you can see the icons are there. The plus Django for aesthetics is there. Count works. Yes, so that is how you deploy Vite plus React plus Django. When you cram every React folder into the Django folder, as we have done here. So the other method is having two separate code bases. The React side, I believe that based on this information that we have learned today, you can create your own React app using Vite. So I'll just show you the configurations to set in your React and Django settings.py to ensure that it works. First thing you do is, let's exit here. You have to pip install course headers. As we had said initially, There's a cross-origin resource sharing. It will be PnP install Django course headers. Once you've done and installed apps, add course headers. Then go to the middleware. Add course headers dot middleware course middleware and Django middleware. Common. So once you've done that, below the default auto field, you could add course allowed origins. So at this point, you could have HTTP. So it's not much way to be localhost. So depending on the domain name that you have, if you deploy it, you could add it to the allowed origins. So localhost 5173. Yeah. Chart 73. So you could also use the course allowed all origins true, but that creates more security risk that I do not prefer. So you will do this, but I do not. Well, that's due to the security. So you will even put it as false. Once you've done that, add the REST framework details. So then give the Django standard configuration such as the Django contrib auth and allow read-only access for unauthenticated users. So it does not block the React framework from interacting with Django. That's the purpose of this REST framework. So we will go to the default permission classes. And the default authentication classes. Here we'll have the REST framework permissions allow any. Here we'll have authentication, session authentication. So with those settings, I believe that if you have your front end separate from your React Django backend, you'll be able to connect to it using all those settings that I've shown you. So there's this course allowed all origins, the REST framework, adding the course origin middleware, and the course headers. if you don't have the course headers, you can install it using pip install Django course headers. Feel free to read more about them online. With that, I believe that we have done all that we were supposed to do to integrate React frontend to Django backend. It's not a piece of cake as you have seen. Django is a bit complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's going to be more manageable. Let's just put it that way. Thank you very much, and comment down what you want to know next.